When did you realize that you had the voice that could carry messages and probably even earn you bread?
Hi, my name is Timo. Today I tell you my story of being a radio voiceover artist. And of course, the journey has been long. I hope you learn a thing or two. I'm here with Mr. Batte, so we're going to dig deep into the industry, radio industry, and of course the media at large. So I hope you enjoy. When life hit hard, I used to do it because I was first a radio producer, a music producer. So I produced music for quite some time, from like S2, and then, until it was like 10 years of music production. At least I've produced most of the artists that are in this generation, minus the fake makers, but like, Gravity, Maro. I've recorded most of the artists, at least.
Of these songs, which one would you say in my career highlight? These were the big.
There was Myth, Nonini. Nonini is from Nairobi. Then there was Navio, Tuli Muchintu. There was Voiceover, still Navio. There was Maro. He's like when he was starting, and then Until Biwewo. Yeah. There's Leila Kayondo. There's
Which Leila Kayondo song did you do?
I don't remember the names, but I remember the artists coming to the studio. A song by Oscar Mwonge, Njoga. I actually did the chorus of Njoga. Within my time as a producer, as a music producer, I also had songs as a person. Songs as a person, and also because when like the way you see Reddy and Weasel, so I was working with my guy called Imon. So I produced a lot of songs. Mose, Bafana. I remember Mose's coming together with Bafana was because Bafana was brought to the studio by Mose's young brother. So when he came, the song we produced, when the brother took the song home, that's when Mose asked the brother, "Oh, who is this one?" It's called Bafana. "Oh, he sings very well." That's when they teamed up. So all the songs, at least that Mose did after with Bafana, were first of all produced by us, but when he was a solo artist. I recorded, some could come, we'll record them, and, could go, like Radiant Weasel at some point came, A-Pass. Most of those, now you see like A-Pass, his career, probably, maybe half of it, I produced most of the songs when he was starting, like until to that album that brought him in, Tuli Kubigere, was co-producing, mixing, until, radio took me over.
Which studio was that?
We had a studio, first of all, called Southside. It was one of those studios that did music that was very urban, hip-hop and R&B. And we had at least most of the big artists that did R&B and hip-hop come to that studio by then. GNLs, Unique, by that time, because Clearcut was, one of those big dogs in the industry. Still is, but, it was having Navio in studio, having the Myth in studio, was everyone's dream if you were a producer by that time. I don't remember most of the songs, but I know at least maybe I've changed face, the look, but I know I've had conversation with artists in the booth, directed them somewhere.
How did you get into all this music mix production?
I think, in Form 1. So there was this guy, I think by that time he was a vacist. So I would find him on the way when I was returning from home, from school. He was very cunning. He would say, "Hello, how are you?" So his name is Imon. So we became friends. By that time, there was, Seven had introduced Chisanja, something like that. So my other friend called Abu, may his soul rest in peace, he told me we could make a Chisanja song and we could get money from the government. I was like, hey. Okay, so we teamed up a group called Ita Crew, Abu, Timo, By that time, I was calling myself Team D. Because there was Raga D, Team D, Mega D, you know. We teamed up, me, Abu, and Ivan went to a studio that was called Songdo. But Songdo, I think, was like the best studio with equipment. But of course, poor production, because maybe you guys didn't know how to run the gear. So with disappointment of having a very poor song from Songdo, when we bumped into Imon said, I know someone who can do a better song. So Imon introduced us to J.O.B.
Record.
J.O.B. Records, but you know, young chaps, I think S1. So we're like, okay, let's go. And we did a song called Echisanja. The whole village was very supportive. I come from a village called Mutundwe. People would give us some money, you know, support us, you know. But I was a footballer first, so some were disappointed that I left football for music. I would say, why are you leaving football, you know? Because also my family had background of footballers. That team called Cobs, you know, my uncles would play, you know, football from there. So, and my grandma was a very, very, very big fan of football. Very big fan, that she would travel to go to Nachivubo, Wankurukuku to just watch matches. Maybe because I was also a very big performer in school when it came to, you know, entertainment, I was like, okay, let me go for music. We produced the song, and then we had, because Ivan also was connected to a gentleman called Kadunabi from Butambala. We went to Butambala, performed. They gave us, you know, those parcels that always have money. I don't remember how much it was, but someone took away our money from, you know, the parcels. Probably by that time they would give you maybe 50,000. Then someone just lives in 10K or 5,000. And from then we created a bond, me, Imon, and then we started a village studio that was called Exerian Records, because Imon was coming from Buroba, so they had the Aka group. So we teamed up with his Obis and Ogis, then with support from, you know, a cousin to Ivan that brought in some machines, speakers, big speakers that were not actually studio speakers, but yeah, they would help, a computer. Then we started the studio. The very first studio started in Mengo, in Sibambi's area, because I also remember him coming by. He was very responsible man. He would come to the village, to everyone that would come, like a new person coming into the area, he would, you know, come with the chairman, hello, how are you? Oh, so greet you, and then. So we started the studio. I was the youngest of all. By then, I was now in Form 2. So I would come over, you know, the weekend, they would pick me. For them, they were done with Form 6. So we started the journey of learning together. We picked a few tips from J.O.B., then brought them over. We started as boys that were very aggressive. I remember Eddie Katimbo was, he was the IT guy. Now, Imon was someone who had a background of studio and also knew, you know, could sing better than all of us. So his role was to train us. But also from my school, now I was the pro, because I would bring people, write songs for people to come into studio. Along the way, I think Abu got, you know, busy. He got into DJing, so I stayed with Imon. So we started to create the partnership of, you know, being producers. And I remember us, you know, me creating a filter, because we wouldn't, you know, have money. We didn't have money to buy it. So I said, you know what? Imon had a bigger brother called Jojo. So I went, he had his shots. In there are nets in the shots. So I said, that's exactly how the filter looks like. So I went, I made a wire, round it up, you know, cut out the net, then put it on the mic, on the filter, so that we could have a pop filter. You know, we were adventurous. And I remember Jojo looking for his shots because we had to hide them. But that's when we had, you know, people, because a lot of kids from Buloba now came in. Mark Elvis also joined in there. So all his life, when he was an artist. He would be there, also one of the producers, because he knew how to play the keyboard. By that time, also people like Christopher Bilas could come. Once in a while, also bring in like Peter Miles, some to visit because we didn't have the equipment, but if they liked the vibe, then we'd do the songs. But the people that believed in us like so much when they were stars, it was Navio, Myth, mostly Myth, because that Myth, Don MC actually brought in Myth. Don MC same time also carried Airpass with him because they were in the same school. Then I remember also Bini Ganta was carried there by a person called Wonderman, who was also a neighbor to Imon. So it was friends in telling them, we have a studio somewhere.
Word of mouth.
We have a studio somewhere. So that's when we started, doing everything. But now the technique, the only bad thing we had is we were not so, technical with studio. So we would get some company, pay a producer just for us to watch what they do. And then we go back at night in the studio, say, did you see that? Okay, yeah. We would go to a studio, pay the Kamani. My role was to watch how they mix the voices. Then Imon would watch how whatever, instrument they use or samples they use for the beats.
Which studios were you going to at that time?
Every studio. Say, okay, who is the Chiwa? Okay, let's go back to JOB, but don't act like you know anything. So we'd pay for the songs and leave them there. Pay, leave them there. One time we had bought some equipment for the guitar. And then there was a guy called Esom. He's at Namirembe Road there. It's now grown. The school has grown. It's a musical school. So he was fresh from South Africa and wanted to train people how to sing, how to produce. And is that guy that taught me how to deal with an EQ. The EQ, if you learn how to EQ, everything else can, is easy with production, because you will now learn how to deal with lows, highs, the mid-range, you will learn. And that's what I learned from him. But we took our because we didn't have money now. We took our equipment and then we said, okay, we will give you this in return, you will teach us. So we'll go in the evening, learn. In the night, we would move from Namirembe Road to Mengo Market, get food. Then by the time we go to the studio, put in action what we had learnt. So we'd produce songs in the night between midnight and 3. That was our production. We had good songs, but maybe because we were not serious. I think when you're a producer, there are reservations. You always feel, let me just stay in the studio. And I know so many artists that I sang songs with that I don't actually remember. Sometimes they bump into me like, oh, do you remember our song? I'm like, which song exactly? So many songs. So music was my dream, like music production. I remember I said, okay, let me just stop, in Form 4 just to concentrate on music. My grandmother was like, don't hustle. Let me just go into music. And we could make some money. After like 3 years, we could make some money. Some 700, some 1 million by the end of the month. After expenses, we could. We got an opportunity, I think, by then. And Apas's sister now comes and brings in a chick called Gloria. Gloria was the elevation of us. And of course, also the exposure. Took our first plane. She took us to Congo, performed. When Congo was celebrating 50 years, we produced the song for the Lubumbashi province. We co-produced that album with the guys there. We spent like 2 months there. So we had our fun. We did shows there. We actually, when we were there, we carried Badi Bashir. By that time, he was like the best, like the best videographer. We stayed with him for like 2 months, just filming us. And then, of course, we went with Unique. Myth said he was not going, but again, he changed his mind. And then I said, guys, why did you take me? Like, he said no. So went me, Bashir, Imon, Unique. We performed. We came back after like 2 months. So we paid Richamzi by then like $15,000, 15,000 USD for his work. Then we said our money should be kept and we buy new equipment. So we bought cameras. I remember when Talk and Talk and so many videos during that time, Leila Kayondo and all that, were using our equipment, the cameras. So Batte teamed up with us now. We modified the studio, went to a bigger house.
The money had come in.
Then Ego started also coming in because now the girl felt like she had done a lot for us. So it was her rules. Studio opens up at, I'm an early bird. So she would say, studio opens up at midday. I was like, I'm already tired by that time. If I'm going to mix the songs, I'll be tired. So the guy called Dave MC was one of those rappers. So one time he found me seated down in a tree because I majored in mixing and mastering. Then Imon was beats, so we'd team up together. So he asked me, so if Imon is not here, you can't start a project, right? No, because he does the beats, then I do the voicing, then I do... He told me, you need to find one thing that you can finish on your own, that you don't need anyone else to, to do that.
Your own thing.
Yeah, so it hit me hard because by that time the studio was closed, and what I thought about by that time was because we were training ourselves how to do dreads. Those guys, Natty Nathans, what would do their dreads. So they would pay you 100,000, and of course we got clients. I said, okay, let me just do dreads, because when a client comes, from the disappointment of not having the access to the studio when I want it, it's like, let me let these things be. By that time, Reddy and Weasel had a song called Helena. So because people knew we had a very good ear for mixing, they would call us to their studios, so we mix for them. We helped them mix. So Clyde would call us. So we were helping him mix Helena. It was both Nash Wonder and Clyde. So when he called me, I need you to help me mix here. I was like, okay, cool, I will come. But before I went there, then he asked me if I could get someone to help him, come and work at Kingdom FM. So his father needed someone who was a bit musical to work at the radio station.
That's Pastor Chiganda.
That's Pastor Chiganda. I was like, that's me. He did believe me because he felt we had everything that we needed to be music producers, and then it was little pay really. By that time I was paid altogether transport and 400,000. So he knew I could access $1 million by that time. I was like, Orimba. Like, no, I'm not lying. You can come. You can. But remember, when he called me, we were so adventurous. We were people that were so aggressive. We had ads created for brands that we could, deliver. By that time, there was a guy called GK. GK was a son to the former owner of Sanyo FM. So he would, tell us, I need to do such and such an advert. So we got some experience in there. Because me, I would do hardcore, roughneck. So I was, I was always the guy. They said, okay, Timo, you come and voice over. By that time, I didn't know what voicing over meant, but they could, you come and put your voice here. We would produce ads, demos for Coca-Cola. I remember there was an ad called Bonga Ne Coco. There was Pepsi. We actually did an advert that was accepted, was a liquid soap called Gyra. They gave us some command. We even did the videos. But I was not serious. Fanta, we did for Jacana, for so many.
Jacana the juice.
Yes. Most of them really were not accepted because we actually, they were nice, but we didn't have the right, people. But even then, I wasn't that experienced in voicing over. GK could come and he would voice like easily, and I was like, okay, this guy is, I said, okay, let me accept. So I got all the ads that we had, then took them as samples to Uganda because I didn't have the papers. People asked me, where did you study from? No. So I was like, okay, let me take what I have. So I waited for him and he came and, he played the ads and he asked, did you do this? I said, yes. Did you do this? I said, yes. Because I had a very strong relationship with Imon, so I would be like, yes, with my bro Imon. My mind was telling me, if we can come into radio, the radio business with Imon, we can be very dangerous here. So I called Imon, I said, that girl has stressed us a lot. Don't you think you can come and then we partner here in radio? Can become like the best producers here in radio. Remember, these guys don't know, because I believed most radio producers by then didn't know how to have that clean sound. It was all about effecting it. The impact of the voice was also not there. So we had a few producers, radio producers that were up there, like Sematimba. He was up there. He knew what to do. And of course, Capital FM would produce. I realized actually later that Sematimba was using Dungeon, studio called Dungeon.
His studio.
And then, of course, the experience from GK would tell us a few conversations about radio. Uganda told me, you'll be paid 200,000, okay, the other will be coming in, transport and all that. I said, yes, let me work. But for the first 2 months of me being at Kingdom, coming from a studio where we had bought our, Mac PCs, now go back to Windows, go back to a software that we had used like 7 years ago, Adobe. Now I think it was Adobe 1.5. Not 1.5 actually. The very first edition is 1.5? Yeah, I think it is 1.5. So I was like, Banaki. And the sound was so beefed up. There was a guy called Antonio, then there was a guy called Gerard. Gerard, I think now voices he's a VO for Radio 4. So the first 2 months was me just laying back and looking at the situation of how they used to produce for radio. So they brought in Ronnie Mutebi to mentor us. So the first time I spoke, Ronnie actually said, Musajja,
the voice wasn't coming out or what?
Most people don't know that the voice comes. I knew it from the singing perspective, not the speech perspective. So I was like, how will I improve? So Huntington was that guy that had the voice. Gerard was also, somewhere experienced me. I was that other producer that was on internship. So Huntington would come first, Gerard mid-morning to, like 5, then me 5 up to night. So I would do my rehearsals in there. Uganda noticed, because he's like a watchman. He's always on his computer screens. He said, but ngasiwulira bintu byokola. I was like, njakola, but because I was actually depressed, I didn't know. I felt like my life had gone back like 10 steps or 20 even. So within that transition, I started also trying out to voice. Now, because I was coming from a musical background, they would tell me, oh, your sound is soft. I was like, this is the better sound that radio should sound, a bit cleaner, shouldn't be too hard. People are listening to radios. When a song plays, so I started, but they couldn't let me voice for Kingdom as a station, for the station IDs and promos. No. Now they gave me a program to produce. It was called Abafere Bechibuga. I think that was the turnover. And then by that time, there was a guy called Joski. He's called Chiyinji Joseph. He knew, I don't know why he went to school for such, but he knew about radio imaging and production like no one else. So when I was voicing, he came and said, but you can have a good voice. I was like, Chiganye. He said, no, let's try. So I remember, because I had scripted what I wanted and how I wanted it to sound, I remember the first jingle of that program called Abafere B'Ekibuga. Abafere bali wonna, to create that suspense. And he made me voice it and then voice all the other jingles. When I was done with the whole package, then started producing the program. So when the jingles played the first time, Uganda was like, hey, who did those jingles? I had dreads, but I would cover them because I was going through church and all that. They said, "Only a star." Okay. So I think now, back to his ways of watching over people, he was in his office. What I knew what I have, the technique that I have that I think most producers don't have is speed of doing something very fast, but with no mistakes or less. So these guys would come to record like 15 minutes, 12, and then 10. But then I had to produce them in just, after the voicing, them voicing them, and I had to produce them in like, use 15 minutes to produce everything. So whenever I would be cutting out what I don't want. So the production was easy. I would actually use like 10. So Uganda watched, because the program was in like 15 minutes and the guys had just finished, So it was like, okay, let me watch this boy. They have just recorded. How is he going to do the show for 1 hour, produce it in 15 minutes? He watched, I cut down, I put them. I think he waited to listen on the radio. He listened and listened until he couldn't find any mistake. So at 10, he called someone, he told someone to come into studio. Go and call Rasta. So when I went there, I said, "Pozi gwani?" I said, "Nze Jumba." He said, "The program we wajikwata sawa meka." Tiba recordinga 15 esooka ku saawa 2. Recordinga 10 soba kwese dakika, mweze dakika 3 bazikozesa okurecordinga. Naye baba tusereti manya ntikwana mutano baba maze. So kati ebintu ebigenda okulwaninga essaawa namba no producinga mu bbanga ki? Nze dakika 15. Nambuuza bw'okola ensonga mugate nga ngikola ntya? Mba nkyalayinize. Ngamba kati awo okola kuva ssaawa meka paka ssaawa meka? Nze nkola okuva ssaawa emu. Naye bibirimu gwe yabikola nze yabikola ssebo. Kati ngenda kutwala mu njiri. Onaakolayo? Rasta bazijja oluba ngamba ngende nga bwe nzijja ku makya ngende producing entemeteme, cut down
Summons.
I was like, okay. I was like, cool. Because he realized the people that were down, they didn't have the speed. So when I went there, I found a guy called Segawa Triple S. Because I was done with using, I was like, no, I'm not going to use your software. Let me, I put up, I think by that time, Adobe had gone to 3.0. So Segawa said, no, don't use that software here. I told him, Segawa. He was a very big pastor. I was like third in command, like that, or second. Like, musumba bino togenda bisobola. Gwebera ku radio, when you hear a mistake, you let me know. So I would go through and edit them 1 hour because they were already recorded. So you remove the mistakes. So would look at me and say, "Naye Jumba, bw'okola ensobi." Like how fast I would move. Like musumba. Kino kireke. So I would listen to the radio. So he appreciated my efforts in there. Now there was a problem. Because me, Chiganda wanted me because I was fast and would do everything, clean and safe. But I wouldn't go to church. I wouldn't pray. So when the church paid on time, like actually even before, last Friday, so they put me off the radio's salary. So they converted everything, so I was paid in church, from church. So I would just pick maybe facilitation from radio that was around like 120, but everything else was paid in church. So there were people that would pray hard to be put on church salary because they knew it would come.
On time.
So they asked Chiganda, why would you put that Rasta who doesn't even come to church on our salary? The guys who are always here struggling for the church money. I was like, amumuleke. Kasita byakola abitegeera. Nitasaba, you know, he's always there. He's a Rasta, you imagine. Mumuleke. So I did my time there, I think 1 year. But within that time, because I'd mastered, when I come into a place, first of all, I'm quiet, then I study, then then I did my very first ad. There was a salesperson called Annette. She's now working for Galaxy. So she said, I need an ad for Seroma. But
Your neighbors there.
the other lady wants people that are very well behaved, and now you have dreads. How will we go to her office? Said, you take me there. But you know you're going to compete with the Patrico Mujuka, Abe Muchibi. It's like, Mama, let's go. Now when we went into the office, the lady started preaching. Now you see, you are a very little boy. Why are you having dreadlocks? But will you do my work? I said, oh, yes, I will do it. So I went, did the ad. We took the CD to the lady. I even, sang the jingle. And it was like, wow. It was, I think, 150,000. That was like the last time anyone else, because Seroma, the lady, was very supportive to the church. So she was highly respected. And they knew she wanted clean things. So if she said yes to my product, that meant that I had got, some pedigree in there. So from there, no one was allowed to do a radio ad that was for a client. So there was an administrator called Anne. So every time someone else did the ad, so she would send it back, say, Bananki, mukatwalire Jumba yabakakola. So that's how I would do ads. Kinkizi, Seroma, so many other products. But again, I wasn't there. My friend called Mark by then said, I have a deal. There's a media, how do they call them? Mentor called Martin Semakula. So Martin knew Mark's sister because they worked together at some point in radio. I said, I want you to mentor my brother. So Martin got a deal in your side to produce shows for farmers and also at least facilitate the radio stations to be better at production all over the country. So they got me a deal. I was like, they would give me 1.2 in 2 weeks just for facilitation, and then 2.5. I was like, okay, my dreams have come true. I didn't take a lot of time. I told Mark, you write for me a resignation letter. So I resigned at Kingdom. Went and signed that, you said, Cotton House there. I took it to Timothy, the administrator in the church. He said, okay, I'm going to tell the pastor. I'm going to tell Bishop. So Bishop called me and he asked me, Ogenda. I was like, yeah, Ngenda. You know that feeling when you feel like, really, you're giving me 400,000, but I would get some money from ads, Bambi. Yeah. And I see a lot of people complain, Bambi, that they're not paid at Kingdom, but they paid me. And even when I left, they even paid me that month because it was just starting. And then he called me, and I think I was lucky. So I can't believe someone who says they don't pay them at Kingdom FM or something like that. He told me, but are you sure? Or you want to, maybe you can go and then think about it. I was like, I'm very, very sure. Tuesday came, the cars came, we packed our bags. We went to Gulu first. Speak FM is the station. So my thing was production. Others were, Martin was, team lead, mentorship, Mark. So I would, 3 weeks in there, because the radio station where you were coming from, there was also a guy called Kafumbe. The radio station where we were coming from was the radio station that they could go back to probably, be in good terms with them. Say, we have your person who was working here. So they went to a radio station in Jinja. I think it was Chira. there was a girl called Ruth. Ruth was on our team. Said, oh, Ruth we have someone from your, who was here. She's called Ruth. And then when we come back, she'll be the person in charge of our program here. It was like, Ruth? No. Ruth, first of all, left here with a lot of, she did everything bad here. They stole the company money. They stole me. They were they would abuse it. They abused the manager. They teamed up with the other manager to steal. And you know how whites work. I was like, I wish we are with the right team. So the phone rang. And told Martin, we are going to stop the project. That's like 4 days into the project. We were told to first go back home. Martin stayed to finish up whatever he was finishing. We were actually told to return some of the money for the remaining days. So from the 1.2, so they would pay us the other half, but also return this one. You were not at work. We returned it because we were not eating it really. Everything was there. So I remember at that time I called my girlfriend. I told her, they have taken us back home. It's like maybe things will be okay. But because I had tested my very first million in my hands, I was like, let me wait because I didn't do anything wrong. But the guys were looking for, other people to work on the project. I waited for a full year. The guys at Chiganda's place would call me, but why don't you return? I was like, you said we'll call me back. Actually, by that time, now Buddy calls me to say, okay, now that I've signed Airbus, come and help me, you'll understand him better. And also help me, we find a producer that will work here. That's when we found Nassim. We zeroed on Nassim, and then we started the nurturing beat. I would come from home to go produce and then, help out. So because Airbus was really a big, had started performing. I remember the very first time Conscience came here. So because Airbus was like, I fear that stage. I was like, no, don't worry. I'm going to be your backup. So let's go to the stage. We went, dressed up, we performed. I was like, tugenda chikuba gototia. Because I knew all his songs, I would produce them. So I knew word by word. And then he knew I was a performer. So I would back him up like you see Peter Miles animation. You'll be up there. So, but I wanted, because I had tested how radio production was. I was like, no, maybe I'll find a job. So now I started producing, jingles. I remember that time I produced for Metro FM. Took my CD there. Mark told me, we go and, see Habike. When we asked, there was a very, very, indisciplined receptionist. Said, what do you want? If you want, you put your CD there. You will come back on Tuesday. So when we came back on Tuesday, they said, oh, he listened to your things, but he said he can't use them. I was like, okay, cool. Now, when we were returning, I was listening to radio because Habike by that time had a show that over Uganda, something like that. Ugandan artists and musicians were in the evening. Now my jingle plays. I was like, hey, these guys said they're not using anything here. But because we didn't have really where to start from, we delivered the CD. I was like, okay, but because they said. So, from the two guys that we were working with at Kingdom FM, Gerald got an opportunity to go to Soroti. By then it was Soroti. That's what they told him. The engineer at Kingdom FM called Mayanja had his fellow, engineer who had a station in Soroti. I tried actually to even go to Somalia, but I said, Somalia was telling me to cut off my hair. I was like, sure. Sijagenda. Gerard called me and said, by the way, Jumba, what was station here? You bagamba mbwe Soroti nze siva mu kibuga man. Very arrogant muchiga. He said, I'm not siva mu kibuga. He said, you give me the contact. He said, actually call Mayanja, the engineer. So when I called Mayanja, I told him, Mayanja nze Jumba nangamba bwe maviri bulijjo oliwa. I was like, okay, bangambye oyina ekitambula. Naye omusajja tayagala bantu basiba balansi. Tayagala basiba balansi ate wuyo oli rasita. ne mugambye ebyo tobifaako ze kyenaakola kye kijja omuyamba nga nakolera ewa Kiganda ng'ate Musumba kyogamba ontwalira Musumba. I was like, okay, let me give you his contact. So I went and I met a guy called Charles Muhwana. I spoke to the guy and he said, okay, so before you agree to anything, I need you to go and see the place. So I went to Mbale to see the place. But in all my dreams, I said, if I want to go to a radio station, actually, because during that time, I even tried to go to Katende, to Ebony's, because Buddy told me, you can go to Katende and work there as a producer. But I didn't like the vibe. I felt like people there were, do you ever get to that place and then you feel like there'll be a lot of people that, what I thought, I said, but I had agreed. It was Kunya.
Why did you think that?
There was a word that Bossa was looking at me like this. I was like, this look is not for a person who wants you to be here. The producer that was in the studio, and then what put me off, I went to Katende's office. We agreed. I finished everything. He said he was going to pay me 700,000, give me transport over 60,000, Bambi. Studios, his office was so cold. The AC was so very cold. It's like, okay. So I had to report on Monday for work. My sisters were like, okay, you have already now gotten a job. So yeah, well, relax. Because my sister would give me every day from her kiosk. Every day she would give me 3,000. Imagine taking money from the kiosk, 3,000 every day. Every day. 1,000 for airtime. The other 1,000 is for taking me to Machindye, to Badi's studio. 1,000 of course, Lusigarim. So she was like, I'm relieved now you've gotten a job. But she did it for like a whole year. 3,000 every day. There was a day they were cutting cake for someone's birthday. They had trained. They had a play that was going to be there. Bambi Katende was excited to have me on board. Until this one time, when someone was performing and then she was, lazy, and then he said, naye gwe ekyo kyekyo ky'okozesa kati naawe oyagala okugenda ebweru munno oli wamubuuziza nti ki ekyamuganya okugenda ebweru. And we used to hear stories of bw'ogenda ku Ebony's, simanyi you work for a lifetime. It was like, will I leave this place if I start working here? The guys that I thought were stars would actually also maybe behave because they have seen a new person. So they go to you, how are you? What are you? Why are you here? What are you going to? I was like, these guys cannot be that naive to know what like, it felt like they were fighting for space. I was like, is this the right space for me? Because I'm a producer here. And then the production, I got a bad feeling about the guys. It was actually, I think Sharon, but Katende was the only person that was very welcoming. Oh, come and eat some cake. He was, very cunning. He was that guy that made me feel like I needed to be there. But the other guys around, Nagamba wano, either ovao nechinanasi, something like that. I was like, okay, Bambi, Katende spoke to me very well. He's going to give me a good salary, 700 by that time. So I would just move from home. It wouldn't even take me if he was going to. Food was there. If my heart doesn't like something, I say no. So I went home, slept. I couldn't tell my sisters anything. So the day for reporting to work, Monday, they called me. And my sister comes to my car room. She would call me uncle. Uncle. Bannange obudde butuuse bw'ogenda ku mulimu nga togenda. It's like, sigenda kugenda. Kiki? Togenda tandika leero nti sijja kugenda, sijja kukolerayo. She said, ate lwaki? Nga sijja kukolerayo. I heard her voice from a far distance saying, bannange omwana wa mama wange baamuloga. But she couldn't tell that. She couldn't understand that me, what I wanted in life was a space where I would feel comfortable and then confident to be creative. I don't want to come into a space where it is, I know about competition, but not to be in a place where I feel the other one would want to sit in your place even when they don't work there. Or probably maybe because now the ads that I played, they had to change probably from Bosa's voice to my voice. I think that's when he was greeting me. You know Bagandas, there's a way they greet you and you're like, oh no, Muganda tanjagadde muka bulungi. So I was like, neda, My instincts said, no. So back to the drawing. So Gerard called me, I went to Mbale, and I envisioned a space where I would do that had TV, radio to get that experience. When I went to Mbale, there were 2 stations, Open Gate, Step FM, and then Step TV. I was like, okay, and it had better facilities, like more than radio stations here in Kampala. Because the guy is an engineer, is rich, the facilities, he has, his masts are there, he doesn't hire from anyone. Everyone from Mbale hires from him, so he had everything. Spacious, your own space, how producers want their own space. There's a 2 production houses, there's a TV there, so I was like, okay, this is the place. So I went to Mbale. But when I was in the bus, I remember my sister, the guy gave me transport. But as I was going back home, I love shoes. I saw that guy from our village, said it was called Lukoto. Said, Timo soko je. Changu na wonguleko. Because of my love for shoes, and I can't say no when I have some come, and I was like, kale kankuguleko najinguze gumu kitundu okolo ntola ku sente zintwale Mbale. So I reached that time and my sister was broke. So she gave me money and it was remaining like 5,000. So I said, let me go to my father's, my uncle was working in the park for Uganda, Abeda Tatao. So I went to the old tax park. I told him I'm going to Mbale. I asked specifically for what I was lacking, 5,000. He said, but is it enough? I said, no, that's what I want. I went to Mbale. When I got there, Charles welcomed me, took me to Mount Elgon, ate some good food. Now, there was the lecture. You see, he told me, first of all, I don't think you're going to eat like this every day. Because there are some good, this is for welcome. Also, I want to warn you about girls in Mbale. They are very, few. So you know what happens there when girls are few. They might get sick, so please watch out. That's where I started. When I got to Open Gate, I realized, when I was in Mbale, I realized people of Mbale loved Luganda like English. Like it felt nice for them to speak Luganda. So it was like their English. So I said, okay, let me brand the station. Because Open Gate had Luganda in there, had Lumasaba in there. So I said, let me fuse Lumasaba with Luganda in this station. And it worked. A few months in, started working on the morning show. And it wasn't something smooth. Like I think a few months, like 8 months. Because people up country are very passionate. Okay, I'll tell you, like there are radio stations where people are very passionate about the brand. So when the other guy left, they always had their people calling in, oh, Segwanga aliwa, yo mumujeko, oh, lo, mugenda ko na radio yaffe. For like consecutively, like 2 weeks. Until this lady, actually, they told me Bambi, she died. She was called Scrap. Big fan of the radio station. When she called in and said, wamaze nkwagala era nze nja kukuba nka wano nga mbuusa kweweka konze kale. So she was like my very first, honest fan. But I had changed a lot of things with radio production, so the imaging changed. And because I found a guy there called Muchibi Alan, who would team up in production, so I would do something for Step FM, do something for Open Gate FM. Then I became also the VO for Step TV. Step TV, then I started an entertainment show in there. you know. But still, with voicing over, I would get just small gigs. But one of the very first supportive person, by the way, very supportive, that made me enter into the world of, you know, there's mainstream, was a friend of mine called Martin. Martin was a graphics guy. He worked for NBS sometime, and he was working with Kazora so much. He would do a lot of Airtel ads and so many ads, Fanta. So Martin had a deal with Centenary Bank. Mambi would send me his gigs. Say, Timo, voicing, and he would give me some money. But him would give me top dollar, okay, voiceover, okay, by that time, per voice, 400,000, okay, mix it. So he would give me some good money, Bambi. Very supportive, because you know when someone sacrifices they say, okay, Timo is not known, but for me, he knew my ability. So he would give me his voices. And I got better with my voice in Mbale still. Now, when I got in Mbale, because I took over, then became head of production. So when we needed someone on step, because I had the say, then I called the other first guy also who believed in me, who told me I would voice Joski to come and take over step. So it was unity. So I became better and better. I said I will leave Mbale when I can go back to camp. And I remember before I went to camp, I went to Mbale. I first went with Gerard, the guy who got me the gig at in Mbale, to Galaxy. But I always did like what Galaxy was doing. I thought it would be a cleaner station with sound, with communication, with also the production. Like never Galaxy. So I would listen to it, but well, this guy's in whatever was like, it was there, it had a brand, but I thought it would be cleaner to compete with big brands like Capitol, to also have that, you know, someone listening to it when he's also listening to, you know, Radio 1, Akabozi, you know, to feel free when they're listening. First of all, because of the production, and two, because of the programming. So in Mbale, I found a guy called Jabi. He also knew about radio. He mentored me a lot with actually knowing more about also production, because production also, it's a bit technical. So you learn a few things. I learned everything, and I outdid myself, made sure Up and Get, you know, it was up there, but of course that station that is adored when someone listens to your station, and like it is well programmed with the jingles. And how I got better then, because you learn from a lot of people. There was this time when I learned, when Alex Mohanji came in. Alex was, I think, the VO for Radio West. So I said, I need a studio here to voice, just to voice. And I sent things here, you don't have to mix. I was like, okay. But when he got on the mic, he said, okay, record. He didn't use a lot of energy, but the voice was sweet and very commanding. He said, Igana katonyeze biri, Radio West, gamba mpurire. I was like, oh. Hey. So I rehearsed using his voice. Igana katonyeze biri, Radio West, gamba mpurire. Nga 13 katonyeze biri, open gate famba. So it gave me the right actual tone and mood that I would use. And when I locked in, I learned, okay, because there's a transition in voicing. There's you when you're just, you know, when you have hopes of being one, then there is you with creating identity, then there is you now being professional, at knowing that this sinks in well. Because it was actually not far, because Radio West and Open Gate, they all target the same person. So but because he said it softly and very effective, and I was looking for how to sound like that without sounding, because I would, Open Gate Farmer would sound like that. Then I said, Open Gate Farmer would become more effective. So that technique I learned from there, and then I'll say, oh, then I used to most of these things, like I said, with music, I would go to a lot of people we would go with Imon with a lot of people to learn. So I found out a guy from Radio Music Creative, how we used to voice. Now, this is what I did. I said, because all my life when I was growing up, we used to listen to Capital FM. So I was like, okay, let me image Open Gates as clean as Capital, whether in Uganda or Lugisu. So I mixed Open Gate, tuned it as I wanted Capital to sound, because I said if I can't get to the dream, let me do it here. And that's how I did. And also Step FM, we used to, do that a lot. So time came when I was at Open Gates, some things happened, really. We spent like 6 months without being paid. The guy was paying on time, but business. I think got issues, I think, with URA and all that. But we waited because, someone who has been paying you for 3 years very well, that it's just an issue. But I think he wanted to get out of it, so he wrote and sent us an email, everyone, I'm going to cut the money by half for the 6 months and moving forward. I was like, yeah, but boss. I wrote back, like how we have waited and we've been working, how can you cut what we've worked for after? You would have, notified us and all that. So he said, me, I'm leaving. There's a time when you feel, when I will leave, I will break some hearts here now, because you've put your things in work. And I remember I spoke to a senior person there. She was called Shanaz. She told me, Jumba again, and Mgamba, So we left with, I think, 4 people. So when we were leaving, they told him, these guys are serious, some from TV and us from radio. So he sent us all the money for the 6 months, full. Said, no, I need to leave. We leave, we go. So amongst all the people that went, because I would engage in trafficking, putting people together, people showing up for work. A week in, Mwanja, the lead sales, called me and said, Jumba wankola ki? Eriyo n'ebintu bitambuki, abaana tebampa report ku time, please come back. Okay, come on, we negotiate. By that time I was being paid, I think, 700,000. Yeah, plus TP. Then I said, if I'm returning to Mbale, he needs to triple my money.
Deal or no deal?
Deal or no deal. He's a guy, he has his money. He said, And then I said, okay, one other thing. Don't pay me through the bank, because one of the employees had a husband there in the bank, so she would be the one to tell us, hey, so she would tell her, ona sente zafuna ku account ye nyinjiko kuzabalira kati. I think the manager was being paid like 1.5, 1.2, the general manager. So now me I raised to 2.1. He said, okay, when are you returning? I said, I'm returning today. I can return on Monday. Remember the show also, the morning show was at its peak. So he said, okay, don't let anyone know that you're returning. He paid me that month. Said, okay, let me pay you the month. 2 months, I think. Said, I want my money on mobile money by 28th, okay. Then I said, I'm going back to Mbale in my mind. I'm going to stay for a year. The house that I got in Kampala, I'm going to be coming after 2 weeks. And that's what I did for a whole year. But from the time I stepped in Mbale and I was working, I would warn people that, you guys, why don't you want to work? If I'm not here, what will you do? You see what happened. So I would tell them that it was open, but I wasn't telling them that I was leaving. Like, whatever again, no kumao mu weeks bili wano. So I was like, So from the time I went to Mbale back that very year, I would wake up every day. Just the first thing I would do on the computer, radio jobs in Kampala. Producer needed. I actually even went beyond. Producer needed in Kenya. Producer needed, like every day. It actually became like something. I was over.
Your morning prayer.
Yeah. But it came to of if you don't do it, you don't start. I used to call, if I got a contact, I called Yisabidi, I called a lot of people. I sent in my demos, I sent to everyone. Then 11th month, that was around June. So I said, Banang, I've looked, so let me stop. Let me just go to Facebook. Also, I also type in. So I went to Facebook. I typed in radio producer needed in Kampala. Then Galaxy FM's thing popped up. Galaxy FM is looking for a producer, but it was now late, like 2 months. I said, I don't think there's a producer in Kampala. If Sematimba is not working at Galaxy, then I can beat everyone. Because I listen to radio a lot. So I would tell. I said, if Sematimba is not working, then there's no one that will beat me. I called one of the boys there. I told her, Ambrose, you write for me a letter telling Galaxy that replying to their wichi. So Ambrose wrote, put in my things that I had done. After I think 2 hours, the general manager, he's called Ashraf. He called me. Jumba, how are you? Like, I'm fine, how are you? Go get Ampola. Buentio. So where are you? The things that you shared, are you the one who produced them? I was like, yeah, I'm the one. But you don't sound like the one. I'm the one. Said, okay, when can you come tomorrow for an interview? I said I will come on Saturday. But what I didn't know is the interviews were still going on and they were cutting off people. So they were left with I think 7 people or 8. So now I come when they have moved for those 2 months interviewing people and then people doing their demos. The process was still on. So I told him Saturday. So since it was I think a Monday, so they come in on Monday. So they shifted them to Saturday. So me, when I was coming, I had all my jingle in my head. So when I got there, I found a list of people that were waiting. So they brought in a guy called Jonathan to, show us what to do. But when the conversation was going on, I realized none of these guys here is a radio producer. If there's any, not at my level. So I just left the conversation. Because they were speaking about everything that, radio production is a bit intimate. You're not going to find someone discussing it or discussing their techniques. Then I did this, then I did this. I was like, none of these ones are. And when they said the radio stations they were working in, then I said they don't have experience in me. The experience that I have. So when they said, okay, who goes in first? I was like, all of them were like, yeah. This is our 5th time here. How does this guy who has just come? So I told the guy, you just show me the computer, put in my hard disk. It wasn't mine actually, it was Ambrose's hard disk, but I had every effect put in there. Used I think 10 minutes. Just a jingle, then I was done. So when I called Nalebo that I was done, I was like, yeah, you're done?
In 10 minutes?
What have you done? I put in, I said, he didn't show me actually that. I was like, okay. I said, okay, this is nice. He didn't show me. So when I was going out, there was one guy who told me, who asked, do you know the software? I was like, how did this guy make it to this level when he doesn't even know how to use the software? And I said, okay, let it be a fair game. I told him, press here, do here, recording here. And I left them with the effects. And then, okay, you also tell the other guys the effects are there. And I left. Now, Nalebo told everyone that was coming in that if you beat this guy, you stay. If you don't, so most of them went. said, we can't handle. Let's go. That's the conversation I get after. But by Monday, then my demo was not part of the demos that were delivered to the management. So they played. So Ashraf asked, so what is the demo for the brown guy? So the producer by then, who was, outgoing, he said, he wasn't good. But because he had a brother, that he wanted in that spot, he wasn't good. He said, we didn't ask how good he was. Deliver the demos. So when they delivered the demos, I think they delivered actually on Sunday to listen through so that they know what to do. So Monday morning, 6, because I told them I'm returning to Mbale, Ashraf calls me and he says, Timo, how are you? I'm fine. Said, the team liked your work. So please come by. So I found one guy, the other one who was called back said, I'm not coming back, I will fail anyway. So I went in there. Then even when they asked, who is first, I said me. There was an advert for Shiba, Club Amnesia. So I went in there, still used little time, and then I went out. So when Miro went inside, 10 minutes in there, then I hear the advert on radio. The guys had already put it on radio. So Ashraf was, I think, done with the meeting. They had an amnesia meeting by then. So he called me and he said, you have the job. So we discussed how much. Then he said, so can you start tomorrow? I said, Ashraf, you have to give me 1 month. I go back to Mbale. I think in his mind, he was wondering, who says no to Galaxy? And say they need a month to come and work. Because I knew Charles would feel like he's paying me too much, paying me on pressure. So I left. I didn't actually say bye to him. But I told him I was going to Kampala to study some things. He looked for every conference in Kampala that I was, but I wasn't there. Bambi used to pay me like 3/4 of that money for a whole year, just for me. But I would do his production, send it back to Mbale, just to make me feel comfortable that I could return. Then when the year was ending, he said, let me let you go. But because I wanted so much to return to Kampala, I cut. Even when Galaxy gave me the money that I was previously now earning at Open Gate, the first time I went there, I said, okay, let me work.
700.
Yes. I said, let me work. It wouldn't make sense to a person thinking, Mbale, wali cheaper, watch this guy like million. I was like, let me come, because that's what I wanted. And I felt I would also create an impact because I was done with Open Gate. I had done what I had done there. Now, when I came to Galaxy, I had a dream of saying, let me make sure Galaxy competes with every urban radio station, whether direct or indirectly. Now, because I just came in as a producer, so I made sure I first deal with everything as a production. I changed the imaging. One thing that people didn't realize, my time, 8 years at Galaxy, is I changed the jingles for Galaxy were all in English, and it was not noticeable. But I found them in Uganda, like 90% in Uganda. Then I changed them to English. But because imaging is so easy, when you make imaging easy, like when you say 100.2 Galaxy FM, it's enough. It's enough for someone to realize that that's a station. You don't have to say, what? You don't have to be too wordy. And that's what Capitol did when it was doing its imaging. That penetrated even to the local person of 91.3 Capitol FM, and that's it. I did everything I could. I changed that imaging to Galaxy. And the dominance with Galaxy came to me. My creativity was the sense of using day-to-day life and then infusing it with the production. of like, I would say,
Like the president has given us a thing, and it was that famous one I liked.
they said, this is the year 2020. 2020.
Funny.
So I would, everything that people would like, I would fuse it with production. Not actually doing it so much, but at an extent of, okay, let them feel attached to the station, even if it was just a normal person. Remember one of the very last jingles, NRG was coming for Galaxy, like with their knuckles. So I said, okay, what should I do here? You see those Galaxy people, when they get into a place, because of the kind of pictures they take and how they take over the whole space. People say, hey, our Galaxy, our Galaxy, our Galaxy. My very last jingle, I think at Galaxy, there was a woman who was saying, Alibaba, Alibaba, Baba nobody say Chijambia, Babo. So I fused. So when they see us, Alibaba, 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 nobody say Chijambia. And I changed the slogan to Galaxy because people believe in what you say. I say number one without apology, big this year, next year. So I made sure it stands. So bring in a lot of slogans, make the community, also be part of it. The very first time when I was at Galaxy, they would say, you send in what you produce, we listen. So they say, you change shares. So I realized I'm dealing with people that wouldn't understand the kind of production I do. So not to say no to what they were telling me, but I stopped sharing. And I said, they would feel the impact when I get there. So even the ads, I would, sit together with, people in there in production to just discuss about them. But because the productivity doesn't mean that, you're going to talk to someone who is more, it comes from even you sitting down with the chef and then you speak to them and you're like, oh, that's how it is. So I made it easier as Capital did, but so the rankings changed from Galaxy just being a Luganda station, also being termed as an English station. So it would come in compete in Luganda stations and then compete in English stations, which was very, very wild for a station to be branded like that. If they want urban, they come to you. If they want, they come to you still, So it was weird. And for voiceovers, I think I just made sure I do me with my creativity. I wouldn't mind because I learned concert ads here are done by Abe, then Omlangira and Daus, then Patrico, then the ones that were a bit corporate, but Luganda-ish was Segawa. So I said, what do I have that all of them don't have? First of all, I'm younger than them now. So the generation is mine now, Two, I'm more exposed to technology more than them. What do they have? Except Ndausi, who is the producer. All the others are just voiceovers. Okay, what does Ndausi have? Ndausi's way of mixing, it's a bit edgy. He would mix something put in a song, mixes it. Then Abe is more verbal. You'd actually fail to understand what Ndausi has said. And you just hear something like, but Abe mwana mulenzi gundi atandise akuletedde olutambi bubig mabi bubig daddy. Then Patrico was just given a script to do that. Nothing much. Segawa was a bit cunning and soothing when you listen to his voice. I said, okay, get the comic part from Abe, get the bit of mixing from Ndausi, get the warmth from Segawa. Put them together and you've been in the market. And also, they have a one-way ticket. All of those guys don't do adverts in English. So the English guys that would do adverts were also not that technical to do an ad probably for an event. Hakim, the Dream, used to do them, but I don't know why he stopped. So I realized they can also not do an ad in English, an entertaining ad in English. They cannot also mix the same way as I do. They don't have the experience musically. They don't know the hooks that I would pick. All of them couldn't sing in an ad, which I could. So Galaxy also being the center of bringing in those ads. So intentionally, I think station was like, if we are going to use, if you bring in an ad, would say, okay, Abe doesn't pass here. But for me, I would plant his station. Do you understand? Oh, Ndausi doesn't pass here. But for me, I would pass at his station. So I penetrated into their markets like that. So if you realize all the ads, if say like, now there's yesterday, but even somehow, somewhere, they said, okay, do the last English bit about that ad. So every big event that happens in Kampala, if I don't take the Uganda ad, I will at least take the English ad. But then Ndausi would lose because no one will go to him for English. If I do both the Luganda and the Shi, then maybe both of them, if they want to target local of pedigree, Abe did it, or maybe just for a feel of we take it to CBS and they say, let us also do ours, give us some money. Now, when it comes to corporate ads, the ads, I don't mean just Luganda ads, but corporate, bank, then Ndausi would lose. Because you can't say, if it is a promo, of course, but they don't want to sound like that. They're corporate companies. Then I would go for him when it comes to the rough bit of it. Then I know he wouldn't come to me for in corporate. Because of the versatility of where my life has been, artists have been everywhere, which they have not been. Their channel has only been radio, probably maybe also drama, because that's why Abe comes in with the drama, Segawa, then Ndausi comes in with that tone of Radio Simba. So if I want to do an ad that will go to Capital, it will just be an ad for Capital. It will not be identified as Timo. But of course, people get to know your voice, get to realize that that's you. But competition comes when you look at the people you're going to compete with. You know what they do better than you, know what you can do better. Make sure what you're going to do is actually, more appealing. Also, I came into the new era of doing short but sweet. Don't do too much. Like the ad starts at the intro, and it is done, and then you're okay with it. So also the communication, I know I'm going to get to a time, which is not now, but I'm going to get to a time when I'm with voiceover, you get to a time when you're appealing to the older people with your voice, because you grow as a person. Even now, if you listen to Semat, he has tried to really stay young of how he sounds. But now you'd feel it when you say it's Super FM. You feel like someone who has now grown, But still, it's appealing. He can still use it for Capital. He can still use because they target. But you cannot call him to Voice for NRG Radio right now. You can't. But still, with his technique, he can still go there if you want him, really. Being versatile in that way. Now, if I knew, okay, Sematimba would do corporate, he mastered being corporate. Then there are also Sudi, but then I also understood that for them, it's like, Airtel created them into. Then he concentrates in some way with the Airtel money. I do understand. But there's that other feeling of versatility. Okay, if it is musical, it should be like a flavor of Mose Radio. He would go up and down, touch here, touch there. It's one thing you learn over time because you've been, first of all, as a producer, as a director, as a person who has, had a lot of, things to do with life, and of course associated yourself, and also allowing people to comment about your work. You be free with them coming to you negatively about your work. Because me, I can do an ad, and then I sit down people and I'm like, does it work? And if they tell me it doesn't work, I'll be like, okay, I think it doesn't work. What should I do better? I compete with myself. I I make sure I do compete with myself every day. And my production is not limited to just me as a person, but to the people it will touch. First of all, to layer your production to be nice, so many people go out of sync with their production. Like, say, they don't look at who they have in studio before they produce. Stations that don't have tone, they have misguided. Now stations like Simba, Capital, NRG, Galaxy, they have a tone, they have sound of people they want to. Those stations that keep changing how they sound, then the imaging doesn't work well. If you say 106.5 NRG radio, and then someone says 106.5 NRG, you're like, okay. They have to come as urban as the jingle sounds. So that the blend is not about just you, it's also about the people that are going to use your product. Most of these people don't realize that production also has a bit of selfishness when it comes to thinking. You become an introvert of a sort. You sometimes need some time alone to think beyond what other people, do think. I always tell people that that time when when we're out of lockdown, and then I said, I'm going to do an ad that I tested. I had people in the car. I would just say, okay, Abeno in the car. And they would say, Wanji. Because it came from the fact that there was silence in the whole world. So if you wanted to know, you'd just call someone, why Jolly? Dajendi. Now, the most powerful voice that everyone was waiting for was Museveni. Thereafter. So I said, when I call Abeno, the technique was, I don't put a reply. Say Abeno, so the reply from anyone else that is listening didn't have any sound. It was just a dry voice of saying a teaser, saying Abeno. Someone will say reply. Wanji, say Magala vibe. So Museveni, because now he has to be the person that affirms it, says, Thereafter. You understand? But when I did it, they said, because we need a killer ad to really bring back people. And I said, this is what I have. I said, Timo, Pchanga we panka, Chiganye. And I said, I tried it and I tested it. It will work. But because Innocent also, when he believes in someone,
Innocent Nahab.
Yeah, he said, okay, let's see. I was on a border. Because I did it so natural, and the way I speak, it was so organic. So the guy said, vibe yo tugenda jifunira wa. Nakalango kunakawulidde. Because they know you live in the same area. Kalango kunakawulidde naye vibe tugitwala wa, because it was a teaser. Nagamba tujja kukifo tugenda kiranga, nagamba baba twesunze. Kati, what we had was waiting for also, the next step was also creating an ad that had Museveni affirming. Kati ne tuddamu, then the other teaser was wabula namala agamba nti tuddamu thereafter gamba igenda teta. Now the word eteta, DJ Deno was just there and says, man, Baba, I don't know where he got the word from. And he said, igenda teta.
Like fire? Or
I think like fire chigenda kuba chakabi. And I said, I think that word should sit. So we said, okay, we tagline it, eteta. The impact of an ad was so powerful. I don't know. It was we were overwhelmed by the number of people that turned up. Very overwhelmed that we couldn't even control what was in there.
Was that the one at the beach?
Not Jahazi. It was the people, because they used to, people share money with events. So everyone got like that money that they didn't expect. Not what they be like the numbers were so many. But it also comes back to doing something different. Because I hear most of the ads that people produce are the same ads of Gudi, Bagambi Bagenda Kuberayo. They don't build a story in their ads. So there's no story to follow. There's only date, venue. And telling people, why are they coming? What experience? Some of the local guys, Bambi, do it. In the local way, and they do it better. But because we don't have that time anymore now on radio, we need you to do it in, just short and sweet. But you do appreciate them because the effort they put in. I never knew that I would settle in for voiceover, and then I forget about music. So people would come to me and then realize, that's your voice, or that, like the artist would be. I remember one time I did some jingles before I joined, I think after Kingdom, I think. There was a program called Obrambwe Bukaga. So when we did the jingles and then the signature tune, before we did them, Martin went to CBS, the boardroom, and they told him, we're going to produce everything here. All those guys got told, no, that's not possible. We do our things there, and then they are mastered in South Africa. Then we said, I told him, okay, you know what? Because it is a project, and then they are okay with, let them do theirs that are mastered in South Africa. We do ours from here. And then we see. He took the jingles back to are they mixed from here? Because that's how it's been. Ugandans always love things that they can't reach. Other countries, when they see probably technology being introduced, they say, okay, we need it in our. But Ugandans are satisfied with not knowing the person that is doing something. When they know you, they be like, like DJ drops. Someone can go to the internet, then there will be a DJ drop that sounds like any other person. Well, you are looking for a superstar DJ. All the DJs that can play at the event, they will have the same kind of drop, which is not actually related to them. But then they don't realize that if I woke up today and I said, probably I gave Ndausi something to say, Shiru, would make an impact more than DJ Shiru. It's understandable, but the other would be more organic, would be more Ugandan. So Ugandans want things that they are not attached to. What I fight for is, I think I do a lot of competitions online with radio imaging, and I want these guys to know that there is talent, and there is also realizing how they just need the basics to do them, to do such things. Even with voiceovers, people learn. Like me, I'm not a natural voiceover artist, but I learned. Then there are guys that are very natural about their voices, and then still can't use it. So it's just realizing that this is how we want to move as a country. We can do everything from here. People still have this saying of engatona juguza America. Kati nze gye nayambadde enaye enough from America bagigula wa. Yeah, it might sound special that you bought it yourself, but we still have the same shoe that I went to Owino to buy. The original, you never know. People still think that China produces fake, that there is no good quality stuff from China.
In China, they give you according to your price.
So people are still running by brands of saying, this is Sony, that I have to have a TV that is called Samsung, not realizing that people just even turn and then just put a Samsung tag on the TV. And then you're still watching Kwacha TV.
Or skinny.
So the more we realize that there's a new way, there's a new wave of new things that are on the market. It's been 50 years of Samsung. So you want to mean that there's no other TV in there? You want to mean that there's no other microphone that's good in there? These studios, like these studios, humble, I do them, you know, from scratch. I can come here, build your studio, put it together. When you come to people, where do you get the material from? For crying out loud, it is material. You can go to Roseform, you can go anywhere to get the material, as long as you have the art of building the studio, and then knowing that when I do this, the echo doesn't come when I do this, and then you create the beauty. So you can't tell me, tugenda kutumia ebintu egundi babireeta omanye ebintu babijja bweru. Come on. So that, and I said why I wanted so much to go to public capital is to make sure I use my very voice and I compete with that Englishman to do the same product. I'm like, 30 years in broadcast, you still think that there's no person in Uganda who can do the same production. You still send for things from abroad. How lazy are you? A person like Eddie Kenzo would give you a very good basis to know that we can still go global with being local. You understand? There's no need to be afraid of you being Ugandan or speaking Luganda or Nyankore, Luchiga, and doing something nice that sounds well in Luchiga, other than forcing the accent that you cannot even trade in. People here say, people here are very selective with everything they take. They will say, already yayimba nyimba za Luzungu. Has Celine Dion ever sung to you in Uganda? But she has topped charts in Uganda. Has R. Kelly ever sung to you in Uganda? He has topped charts here. Fide, there are, very little songs of him in Uganda, English songs. But because also they accepted that File was not from here, coming from Sweden, sending us songs, so the acceptance was easy. Do you understand? So they feel like someone here who is singing in English, mwanateka mko ku Uganda. You are the same guys that dance to Jamaican songs that you don't even understand. Why is it that a Ugandan singing in English or speaking in English is very hard for you to understand? So you keep referring to, nzechovola banze mpulizaamu ba Nigeria, nzechovola bankola. What is the Ugandanness in you? You see? The more we realize that there are so many, let me tell you, I meant like at least in a year, I get in touch with more than 100 people that are not on air, on radio, but sounding nice, with good voices. Both urban, local, but people don't just realize that someone is urban, that one is just, downtown. It's something very, very, very simple for people to just realize that when we invest money into products from here, right now, probably the government would be supporting, like there's no radio imaging school here. And radio is still the biggest communication, medium that we use. I'm telling you for a fact, there is no professor, I repeat, okay, let them combine 20, 30 professors that can beat me at radio imaging. Those ones that are teaching radio. Even if I give them a chance to repeat what they do 20 times, and I come at the last time. Do you understand? But they are at a professor level. But because our books are really old, the radio has changed, nothing is changing, you find the same person who was teaching in 1990 telling you about radio right now, which they cannot actually even run the console that is in. You understand? The facilities that are in universities, they are not enough. I receive a lot of students from university, and I'm like, what have they been doing? What? So now you will find that the only people that have access to things that they can use in their real-life jobs, real-time jobs when they get there, they're doctors. But even then a doctor, why should a doctor from Mulago now need another hospital? Where are the facilities? I've paid school fees for my child for 5 years. Now they need another 5 years to experience what they have been studying. How? Why don't you use 2, then the 3, for something they can do? Why do they now get to the hospital and then they start studying again? Why don't, okay, from A6, why don't they just go to the hospital? Why are you with someone for 5 years and then giving them to us like half-baked or even not baked at all? So we're at a level where things that are real, we are just by books which we cannot even explain. I rather at least go to Abe and he tells me, you know what? I rather go to Sematimba, he will tell me. Rather than sitting me with someone and they tell you, you see, they are different. Things don't work anymore. They don't. The biggest media personality right now is actually not even working still at a media house. It's Kasuku. Both banks want to use him. But I don't think there's a teacher who wants to associate with him. That they taught him that, how he speaks. It's him, it's his creativity. He might be, a bit edgy sometimes, But that's creativity that you cannot limit. That's not what is taught in school. The creativity sector is lacking in Uganda. There's no studio there's no mastering kit for a song because it is too expensive. I saw some of the ministers saying, that is too, because they don't understand. All the ads, all the voices I've done, if the copyright was here, I don't need to struggle. I would copyright every voice I've done for the past 10 years. But people are just here playing with the business. You're killing what is big for what is small. Now, TV is dead because all the people that go on TV dance. There's no creativity in content. Dance. It's going to kill the industry. Same way the music industry is dying. Because the moment the people that head the sector are not as creative as the people in the sector, as the stakeholders, it is going to die. So many people, imagine for a brand, big brand, saying, okay, an ad. I always ask people that come to me, clients, I have my ad, but I have 200,000. Like, okay, you have it. I do understand. When they told them to buy the machine to make the ice cream, 10 million, they were very okay. When they told them to buy the machinery for the factory, that is in billions, very okay. So you want me to use my voice to announce for 200,000, to announce for a company that is worth billions. How do you want me to value your company? Why do you think the investment of me speaking about your brand should be given very little? That's how there is no value in people that go on radio. People are quitting media because there is no value. Someone sits in there, entertains people, and someone decides to pay them as they wish, not as per value. If people are now running away, it's okay, it's growth, YouTube channels. But when you kill where these people are mentored from, you're going to end up with people that are not censored, that sound very bad. You're going to end up with content that our kids cannot listen to because these other people are not now need mentorship. They don't actually admire you. Like presenters here, it's very bad. You will go to a station and all the cars of the presenters are in loans. Big presenters doing a very big morning show, one of the best morning shows. Now they have to pay for the car in 12 months. How much is the car? 35 million. You imagine, 35 million. Or maybe you will see them struggling to actually even get to the jobs. Because now, when I joined NRG, here's one thing I liked. They make you look at the budget and then know what you make. And know what you need to also, you ask for what you think how much do you make? Most radio presenters don't know how they actually even make the money. It has become a platform where someone just comes for a year, get their numbers, run off to a TikTok channel. Someone comes from Dubai, they have been there abusing people. So there's no schooling of training. Just say, come here, take one. Do you know why NTV has identity in its Akaunge's news? They make sure the product is the same. If you actually don't even sink into the tone of their voice, I've never been there, but it's that's what they take. They don't want you to, we are listening to you now, you are the other one here, the other one. No, they don't want that. People are moving away from the professionalism, and because the facilities that are there were just for starters, for basics. You imagine I've paid for tuition in a university. What I would need is just orientation. Because that's the highest level of education. When I come from the university, I'll just need orientation at a station to start working. Now I come with no experience. I've never seen a console in my life. See, people like MCI, if they were not here now, if you look at all the media people, at least that are on for the past, I think, 6-7 years, they have gone through MCI because it gives them hands-on. It's actually a year of being with students, but they get more than what they do get from the 4 years of university. It is sad, and it's just an organization. I have gotten people from the university, I don't know anything. What have you been studying? Well, they have been showing me, like, okay. The DJs, they learn from each other. There's a touch of a DJ who is well-schooled. Let me tell you, you listen to the sets of the DJs in South Africa, Kenya, where there are DJ schools. See their transitions. See Ugandan transitions. All the same, from Hakuna Dawa to because they know I had the other DJ play like that, you know. When people here work to die on jobs, that's what I told you, that when I went somewhere, these other old people that I thought they would be comfortable, they are looking at me as if I'm going to take away everything. But at that age, you should be very comfortable to let in other people come in. But because you paid, first of all, little, that doesn't satisfy you. Someone leaves radio and they start struggling. Someone leaves music and they start struggling. But it is very rare for a doctor to struggle. It is rare. They'll still say that doctor that is respected, and if they go into something and they say like, okay, I do work with eyes, I do, you know, they'll still get their cover because their industry is still rich. They give them the information they need to work in there. But now, I see a lot of organizations all, you know, opening up training. Okay, but what do you train? What do you mean someone is going to pay 200,000 and they learn? What are you going to use it for? What facilities are you going to use for that? You know? So, a university that is worth billions and billions, why don't you set up a real radio studio? Get studio operators, get engineers, let people get out of the radio station where they can actually just go on air. There's a school I saw, it's Janan. They help, they do. Kids are in secondary, but you know, I don't wish for them to go now into a day, go into another. No. Because it is different. It is different. Things that people here do here, you want to get money, be a politician, now you have to steal people. You be a thief, you be a mfere, you know, or maybe do something that someone else doesn't do, or maybe deal in products that where you're going to lie people, you're going to put on bumps. Now you have started being, So when you think about it that way, and for us that receive a lot of those people, we feel the pain because it's very bad for someone who has been through university to be knowing nothing. Very bad. Very, very bad. The technical schools, let's say if someone is going to study art, let them go to what. But Ugandans, by the way, study English. That's what they study in schools. Mostly those ones with art, they study English. Do you understand? Like what they learned in school is English. Okay. If you bring in someone technical, if you want to see that our people are not technical, let me tell you, do you know for the past Love You Every Day is the last video that competed, and I think Reddy and Weasel's video, that competed on a global level, video. You know why? The guys that were very technical, Musta, Didak, they got tired. Now the guy that would do videos, he also sees the artists don't have the money to pay him. This guy called Lookman. The other guys are fidgeting. If you look at, I think when Sasha Vibes was still in SA, the video quality, the videos he used to do from there, and you compare them with now, like we don't have any video competing. Like you see a video of Ugandan, say like, wow, they did a nice video. Wow. They capture planes, we have gotten a chance. Now someone puts the camera up there, it is struggling, and they put it in the clip. Oh, the plane was passing. We don't have permits. We don't have a permit for a video, like videographer. To have a permit of saying, if I'm a videographer, I can easily request for permission for KCCA to shoot at Kampala Road. We don't have that. Journalists here, the valuers, that's why you cannot find like Rebecca Jingo, like Mr. Henry, like Prim, them going to press conferences because it lost value. The value is lost because someone will just post, and someone miscommunicates and that's all. A radio station, a radio personality in Kenya, the Jeffs, their lifestyle is totally. Do you know of a radio, tell me, do you know of a radio personality who has worked for 20 years, who can have a radio station without being helped?
Pastor Peter.
Where did he get the money from radio? You either get a rich man who doesn't understand the business, now they start pressuring you because they don't know how the business works. They don't have that experience. See, the investment of money in projects here, someone got money from farming. Now they have realized, radio stations make money. They come and invest their money in you. They don't have that patience of knowing what radio is. Now they start directing you. Me, I don't want that on my radio station. They start calling you. Who is that one speaking? Remove them. Because they are the ones that have money, but they are not passionate about it. Someone would send a person to the field. You're like, you walk. You walk for us, we used to walk. Used to. 20 years, 10 years. So when they walk and they don't get there on time, because now, how it is right now, it is someone has to get, but also, can you imagine that people don't have protective gear when they go to cover protests? Can you imagine a journalist without any protective gear? Someone Bambi is covering, but because a person who went to university would know how you go to a protest. And you cannot, if you went to school, like a doctor who doesn't put on gloves, they cannot accept to work on a patient. They know it's standard. But someone goes to the field where there is going to be no identification, no press jacket. So they first ask, who are you from, where? Because you don't have an identity. When they slap you, we will say, wa namawulire wawoyo. Just standards. Were you going to the field? Okay. You need a protective gear. Are you going to the field? You need a recorder. People bring bad sounds to radio. Why? There's a man, it's very painful, who broadcasts Masaza Cups in the field. You see him struggling with a phone in people. But that man's voice is so powerful that when you put him there, create a facility in there for him to be broadcasting in a simple way. The microphone that he might use might be 2 million.
Yes, so no.
That's how broadcast is dead. But it's at a rate of what is that guy from Peter Drury? That's his rating in Uganda. Ugandans, there's a way you think about some things and you're like, okay, the passion dies. Now I see a lot of people say, because they see you doing this, they say, I can also do that. Why? Because they feel it's just speaking. They don't know the other standards, the basics. They are not there. Say, if I go and I speak that, I can get clean money. Is there a standard? Is there a standard for, okay, how much should a radio presenter, at least the bare minimum, how much should they be paid? Elections, when people are going in there, someone doesn't have a tag, they're not protected. In the night, people send people to concerts to cover. There are a lot of people. The man is struggling with a camera, no handle, no what, Sometimes they go to the field without even water. People at workplaces, they cannot even be allowed to touch computers. How do you want them to learn? There are editors that cannot even edit a byte. Why? So, your job is to record and then send it. Yet those things, open your laptop, send a clean feed. Still someone comes from a field with distorted sound. And it's allowed on air. It's standard because the manager must be a manager of a microfinance center. He's managing the money, not the product. His experience in radio is very minimal, And his interest wasn't there, but he's there because he wants to have a life. They're natural people. But so many things, creatives need different people that understand them in a different way. If you're going to speak to a guy, or you will go to that person, they will understand you. You're not going to just speak to even if they would say the normal doctor will, the general doctor will, but they send you to a particular person to handle you. Where information comes from, it's dying. It's dying. People just, I saw someone dancing in the back, come to radio. They work there because that's not what they are built for. They work for a year, give them some lights, they go to Dubai, get a man out of radio. There's no passion. There's someone who feels bad if they don't show up. Do you understand? And there's someone who feels like, even if it's like that. Because the passion is not there. And because the standards are not that. So, if you get the best facilities, if you go there and then you say, I get my money from voiceovers. It's like, is that what your son wants? It's like sending someone, you be a lawyer. Is that what they want? So people come because they saw someone earning money from there, so let them come. But they should have been doctors, teachers, But even the teachers that teach, they are tired. There's no value, So a standard facility of a school that has everything that a child wants before they go and join. Because they say, someone told me, I don't know if it is true, that they book people from Harvard when they are still studying. So they book, say, hey, how many lawyers do you have? So companies come and they book them. Because they are very sure you'll have quality. Someone is sure that the academy of Manchester United will produce at least some good products. But here, even the academies of football, even the football pitch, they're now trying to put off artificial grass that is not killing a lot of people's, knees. So creatives need people that understand them and that mentor them. So if you want to find me, I'm always on the internet, www.recapbrandhouse.com, or you can also find me at my social handles, Timo Pandichat, everywhere you search on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and so many other places that you can find a voiceover artist, even on Fiverr.